Today I'm going to share with you how to get multiple business credit cards for your business. In fact, you can use this process to get as many business credit cards as you'd like. And you know what? I don't see this topic or this process being shown anywhere, so you're not going to want to miss this one. Let's go ahead and dive right in. All right, so this is the process of how to get as many business credit cards as you want. And a quick backstory on how I discovered this process is when I started getting business lines of credit and business credit cards, early on, when I first launched my business, I was looking to scale my business, looking to grow my business. I had gotten the big business credit cards, from the big banks, right? Like Chase. So I got the Chase card, and then I also got the American Express card. And at that point, I'm like, well, how do I get other business credit cards? And I got a few others, and I had felt like I was tapped out because I'd already done the major, 3 or 4 business credit cards that everyone talks about, that everyone knows about. What I discovered, sort of by accident actually, is by being in the real estate industry, I'm a real estate investor, I had learned about a term we call portfolio lenders, right? So portfolio lenders are lenders that lend their own money. They do in-house underwriting. It's their own product. It's their own money that they're lending. In fact, I was at an event and I met with this local bank. They only had one branch, like a local community bank, and they told me about a really cool program that they had. And I had never heard of such a program or such a product. And then I started thinking, well, are there other banks just like this bank that's out there that are offering these programs? And most of the time, the reason no one knows about these programs is like these little banks, these local community banks, these credit unions, they don't have a big marketing budget, and so they have a hard time actually getting the word out there to the community. So I said, well, let me see how many of these banks that I could find. And so I came up with different ways, like different sources of how you can find these local community banks and these credit unions. And the reason why this is so powerful is if you go and you get like a Chase card, an Amex card, and then you start working with banks that offer business credit cards, they almost all offer the same, they go through the same underwriter. It's called Elan Financial, right? And so if you get a business credit card and it's underwritten through Elan Financial, it's actually really hard to get a subsequent card through Elan Financial because you already have one. But if you find banks that offer their own business credit card, so it's not done through a third party, but it's their own cards, their own money, they do the in-house underwriting, it's their own decision-making process, then you can actually get as many of those business credit cards as you would like, right? As long as you're keeping up with the payments, of course, that goes without saying, but you can get as many business credit cards as you like. So how do we find these banks? Well, different sources that I've been able to locate. And you want to find really as many as you can, and you want to put all these down on a spreadsheet, and you want to call these banks. The best way that you can find programs that are available. But some of the sources include just first driving around. Just literally as I drive around, even to this day, as I drive around, I see these banks that maybe only have 1 branch or 2 branches. I write down the name of the bank, and then I call them later. Secondly, going online, Googling. Like for example, here I could pull this up real quick on my computer. So if you just go on Google and you just type in like banks near me, I did this a little bit earlier, you could see these are banks near me, and I have like Northfield Bank and Bank of America, right? We know that bank, Wells Fargo, Santander. But Northfield Bank, that is more of a local community bank. So it's not too hard to find local community banks just going online and Googling. Next would be networking events. So I go to a lot of networking events. My process of getting business funding works for all businesses, right? So yeah, I do go to real estate investor events. I talk about real estate a lot, but if you're not in the real estate industry, that's fine. You could be in e-commerce, you could be a general business owner or contractor, whatever business you're in. There's usually networking events that you can attend. It could be the Small Business Owners Association, Chamber of Commerce, whatever it is. But a lot of times these banks will go to these networking events, and you can meet with them. At these events, you can build rapport with them because nothing beats a face-to-face, right? Nothing beats that as far as building relationships with these local banks. So networking events goes really well. Usually, if someone is at that event, like a banker, they're looking to get business. And then lastly, and this is the most important one. This is the biggest source of how I find these local community banks and credit unions is the SBA lender list. So I'll do another quick live example. One of the things that you could type in, a lot of things you could type in Google, but I do top SBA lender and then the state that I'm in. So if I'm in New Jersey, this is what comes up. And I could see here like SBA lenders, they became pretty popular recently, so you could check them out. That's a good website. But the more in-depth list is right here, SBA.gov. So go to SBA.gov, and we have here a list. Now, I spent a lot of time on the SBA website. I was looking through it, and I was looking at all the information that they have as far as resources, and there's a lot of hidden gems in the site. But anyway, so what we found here is each state has a list of banks. Now, this report is kind of old. It's from 2013, and you can get up-to-date lists if you search the site thoroughly, or you could reach out to the director in your area to get the up-to-date list. But here's the thing. It doesn't really matter that much, even if it's an older list, because what this information is, it's the list of the top lending banks in your state that are SBA friendly. And although we're not trying to get an SBA loan, we're just trying to find banks that are business friendly. So we know all the banks on this list are small business owner friendly, right? And so with just this list here, even though it's an older list, and listen, not every year guaranteed it's going to come out with a fresh list. Like I might find one that's, instead of like 5 or 6 years old, maybe I find one that's like 1 or 2 years old. But again, not too important. Inside of this list, you have the main banks. Like I'll zoom in for a second. So the main banks that you've already heard of course, would be like probably the top one on the bank, Chase, right? Top one on the list. And then you have TD Bank, and then you have Sovereign Bank. But then start going down the list. You have New Jersey Business Financial Corp. You have Republic First. You have Noah Bank, right? So, and that's a bank I actually haven't even heard of. So there's a whole handful of banks here that in your state that are local community banks, credit unions, and the majority of them, not majority, many of them are portfolio lenders, right? So that means they're specifically offering their own business credit card product, and it's not done through a third-party underwriter. It's their own business credit card. Fulton Bank in New Jersey. I mean, these are all really great banks. PNC Bank. So I have a bunch of business credit cards. A lot of these banks, but look at, like, let's take Unity Bank for just an example, which is a great bank, very business friendly. But specifically for the purpose of this video and the purpose of this training, if I go in their business area and I look at their business credit cards, and I'll click Learn More. And what we learn about this business credit card, if I want to go to business and I click Apply Now, look where it brings me to. See how it says Elan card, right? So this is one of a great example of where the bank does not offer their own business credit card. It's offered through a third party like Elan. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. You're not going to be able to get multiple business credit cards if it's all through the same underwriter, right? If it's always Elan. So that's why you want to find the banks that actually offer their own business credit cards. Like on that list, for example, PNC Bank, that off the top of my head is one of the banks that offers their own product, their own business credit card. So that's the whole concept. That's the whole process of when you're trying to find local community banks and credit unions that offer their own business credit cards. Now, to step this up just a little bit, I have a little next level tip for you, which is to go to surrounding states. So if you're in, excuse me, if you're in like Florida, you could look at Tennessee, you could look at Georgia, you could look at North Carolina, South Carolina, etc. It doesn't matter physically where you are. But after you look at the list of all the banks in your state, start looking at the lists in the states around you. That way, you will, and then what you do is when you call them, you ask them if they offer business credit cards to businesses in any other state. So I'm in New Jersey, for example. I call banks in Pennsylvania or New York or Connecticut, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, and I say, hey, do you lend business credit cards to businesses in any other state or in New Jersey? And they say, yes, I indicate that. So I create a spreadsheet for all of this information, and you could hire someone to help you out with this project, or you could just simply do these calls on your own. You could visit them on your own. And a percentage of these applications you can do online, but another percentage of them you have to walk into the bank and you have to actually, or email or fax or whatever, digital documents or all that. But the whole point here is that once you've exhausted all the big national banks, which are the lazy way to apply, which is online, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of banks that you just have to go a little bit extra effort, and you're going to find a bank that offers their own business credit card that's way more, in tune with the local business community. They might not be as inquiry sensitive, like, Chase and some of these other national banks. They have very strict rules about how many inquiries you can have in the last 24 months and the last 60 days and all that. it's a lot easier, and really the only way that I see to get a whole bunch of business credit cards is to work with multiple local community banks and credit unions. So that's my tip for the day. It works really well. If you want to learn more about getting business credit cards, I do have an advanced training. It's called our Business Credit Card Mastery Program. It's a free training. It's a master class. It's really good. You can learn how to get over $250,000 in business credit cards without having to show tax returns, without having to show financials or anything like that. Just go to bccmastery.com and you could register for our business credit card master class. Or you can click the link in the description of this video. If you liked this video, please hit the thumbs up button. If you have any questions, just type it into the comments below or let us know what your favorite bank is in your state. So until next time, I'll see you guys later. And if you have any interest, again, in our masterclass, which is going to talk all about this process in a little bit more detail, just go to bccmastery.com and you can register for the upcoming training.